The last time Jeff Hardy set foot in a ring was a year ago next month against the Young Bucks at Double or Nothing. 2 weeks later, he was busted for DUI. His third in the last 10 years. And he was suspended without pay by AEW. Tony Khan knew he was taking a chance when he signed him. Even the way Jeff left WWE the last time was not without controversy and concern over his state of mind and refusing to go to rehab, and it was a whole ordeal. But Tony Khan signed him anyway. And it only took 3 months for him to get burned. He learned the same lesson that Dixie Carter learned, and Vince McMahon before her. The same Vince McMahon who approved the storyline based around Jeff Hardy being an alcoholic. And that lesson is buyer beware when it comes to Jeff Hardy. He's been given a very long leash over the past 20 years by promoters because of how big of a star he is. And when you are a big star, you're going to get more chances than most. That's just the way it is. And that's not just in wrestling. That's in pretty much any form of entertainment that you could think of. But that includes pro wrestling. He is a big star with a huge fan following. And he seems like a nice enough guy. He's had a lot of people rooting for him to kick out of all these problems. You know, addiction is a bitch. And she doesn't care how big of a star you are, or what you look like, or what the color of your skin is, or what nationality you are, or how much money you have in your bank account. But it's when that addiction begins to create hazards for other people as well, that someone needs to step in and say enough is enough. Maybe this isn't something Jeff Hardy should be doing anymore. Maybe there are safer ways for him to contribute to the wrestling business other than taking bumps and diving off ladders. On Wednesday, Jeff Hardy returned on AEW Dynamite. He got a big reaction coming out to the aid of his brother and Isaiah Cassidy, who were being attacked by the Firm. His brother, Matt, on his podcast said the whole thing came together only in the last few days. Jeff had surgery on his eye recently. He is still not completely recovered from that. He can see, his vision is okay, but it's going to take another 6 to 8 weeks before he's back to 100%, or whatever 100% means for Jeff Hardy these days, considering how beat up his body must feel. His DUI case in Florida, that was officially closed a few months ago. He could have faced jail time. It was his third DUI, felony in Florida, third DUI. He was driving with a suspended or a revoked license, and so he was facing potential time behind bars. Instead, he was credited with time served, and he accepted a plea deal. His driver's license is suspended for the next decade, but that clearly didn't stop him from getting behind the wheel last time. Considering the charges against him, he got a slap on the wrist. The embarrassment and the shame of it all was worse for him than any punishment that the court dealt to him. But Tony Khan said his return would be contingent on him completing treatment, which he has done. I don't think Jeff Hardy should be in the ring anymore. Now, what I think doesn't matter. If Jeff wants to wrestle, Tony Khan is more than happy to let him wrestle. And if it wasn't Tony Khan, WWE would take him back in a heartbeat. Because he is a star who can draw them money. But that's how I feel. Even before the last DUI, it was painful watching Jeff in the ring. His best days are clearly behind him. Every move he made looked like he was in agony. I think being in the ring is the second worst place for him to be. The first being behind the wheel of a car. Tammy Sitch is a great example of that. She was back in court on Thursday for a pretrial hearing. She's facing a DUI manslaughter charge for killing someone. That could have easily been Jeff Hardy in that courtroom. I hope, for his sake, this was the wake-up call that he needed, but I've said the same thing many times before. A lot of people have. I sound like a broken record. You know the destination is to get the AEW tag team titles on the Hardys. Right? It's the last set of tag team belts they've never held. This is probably their last big run in a national company. Matt Hardy has been treading water with the Andrade family office stuff, which led to the Firm storyline. And believe me, nobody is happier to see Jeff back than Matt Hardy. Matt said something else on his podcast I want to bring up here. He said, "This is the most work I have ever seen him do to himself, and he had 10 months. He seems different, and once again, I don't want to sit here and vouch for him. I don't want you to take my word for it. I don't want you to take anyone else's word for it. I want you to watch him and follow his actions, and then he'll make you a believer if that's what you need. I am confident his actions and his conduct and his behavior will make people a believer. He's made me a believer. I got to see a lot of him. I got to follow his journey. I know the work he's put in, and I know how dedicated he's been to legitimately changing and trying to get his shit together once and for all. All I can say is I am just so extraordinarily proud of him, and he has done great. He doesn't say what Jeff has done to change and make him think this time will be different. It's always these sort of vague generalities. This time feels different. This time he's going to make people believe. I hope so. I would love to believe that. I really would. Matt has had his own issues with addiction in the past. He knows better than anyone how difficult it is. It has to be incredibly frustrating for him to see his brother fall down over and over and over again. He wants this to be the turning point for him. History would say otherwise. But it's his brother, and I wouldn't expect him to say anything different. Jeff is very fortunate to have that Hardy name, because if it was almost anyone else, they would not have gotten as many chances as he's had. And if he's going to be in the ring, I hope he is at least smarter about the risks that he takes. On Rampage Friday night, Matt Hardy challenged the Firm to what he is calling a firm deletion match at the Hardy compound with Matt and Jeff and Hook and Isaiah Cassidy against Ethan Page, Big Bill, Lee Moriarty, and Stokely Hathaway. He didn't say when this would take place, but a cinematic match is the safest kind of match for Jeff Hardy to be in. Now, we still have about 7 or 8 weeks before Double or Nothing, but the early card for the pay-per-view so far looks to be MJF defending the AEW World title in a 4-way against the other pillars of the company in Darby Allin, Jungle Boy, and Sammy Guevara. The Elite against the Blackpool Combat Club. My guess would be they do Anarchy in the Arena, since that ended up, doing so well last year. It's actually one of my favorite matches of the year. I had a lot of fun watching that match. I could see that becoming an annual thing. Chris Jericho, clearly being primed for a singles match with Adam Cole. Keith Lee against Swerve Strickland. That would seem to be an appropriate place to blow off their feud. Possibly Jay White against Ricky Starks, if they could hold out that long. They could do the match there. Jamie Hayter, she'll either be defending her championship or in a 6-woman tag against the Outcasts, it seems to me. I see, there's no number one contender that seems clear-cut to me right now, unless they do her and Saraya or something like that. It's more likely, I think, to be probably a multi-woman match. And Jade Cargill defending the TBS Championship against Taya Valkyrie. The Owen Hart tournament, the Owen Hart Foundation tournaments, are they doing them this year? I am of the impression that this is going to be an annual thing. They are going to do them. But they have a huge Canadian tour coming up at the end of June into July. So I'm thinking, we haven't heard anything about Double or Nothing in the Owen, even though they did the finals at the Double or Nothing show last year. I could see them holding off on it and doing the Owen in Canada on one or a combination of those Canadian shows. So I don't know if it'll be a Double or Nothing, but I do expect them to resurrect it again this year.